We have a great series going on right now. And the beautiful thing about it is it's sort of an encouragement, a reminder to who everyone is. And sometimes when we listen to things like this, it's easy for us to fall into this mode where we are in when we hear speeches given by people that are just encouraging, right? Like we've all been to seminars where we have been spoken to, encouraged, given words that really sound like words of wisdom. Like I know in this present day, people pay thousands to hear people like Bill Gates speak. Why? Because they can motivate you. But I got to tell you one thing. You might feel motivated at the end of this series. But trust me, the difference is the foundation upon the motivation. Motivational speaking requires you to take charge. The gospel is about what has already been done and not by you. The gospel is about us realizing who we are and going back to the basics. Because within the basics, me and you are born to win. And this is what we're working on today. It was a fantastic series to participate in, and reading about it and coming in every weekend, being taught about it is just fantastic. I got this from Pastor Nathan, and I kept this, says, which wounds are going to define you? We've all been wounded before. In fact, we forget that we're winners because of our traumatic experiences in the past. But which wounds are going to define you? Are you going to be defined by your own wounds, your own failures? Or are you going to be defined by his wounds on the cross? I kept that very dearly. I mean, like, which wounds are going to define you? Because my own wounds are the ones that I had to learn from. But his wounds are the ones that redeemed me from what gave me the wounds in the first place. Because when I'm wounded, it's not because of his fault. It's because of my own misjudgments and my own mistakes. So which wounds are you going to let define you? We will read from the main theme of this series, Romans 8, 31 to 32. Can we have it up if you can? Romans 8. What can we say about all this? If God is on our side, can anyone be against us? God did not keep back his own son, but he gave him for us. If God did this, won't he freely give us everything else? Everything else. In everything we have won more than a victory because of Christ who loves us. I will repeat this last part. In everything we have won more than a victory. Why? Because of Christ who loves us. It says everything. I don't know everyone's situation. I probably don't know all of my situations. But I know in every one of the situations, the ones I know and the ones I do not know, I have been given victory in every one of them. Every one of them. There is no selection. There is nothing that has been said that with the exemption of. There is no fine print that you didn't see. It is said everything. So the basics of everything that we do here, if we go back, is we believe that everything that comes from the Bible is true. Those are the basics. So if we do not fall to the basics, then everything else does not make sense. So the basics is that what God has said is true. What God has said will come to pass. And what God has said has been true then, today, and will be true tomorrow. Basics. So when we read the Bible, this is what the Bible has promised us. What is in the Bible is a promise. And has been rubber stamped for us, especially the ones that live today, because it's been rubber stamped by the blood. We are different from the ones that came before us because the ones that came before us were not redeemed by the blood. We are living in a special generation that has been redeemed by the blood. We live in a time that's effortless, so to speak, where your merits does not matter because it's not about you, it's about what he did. Now I'm going to bring you back to where it all started. At least some of it. I'm going to focus on the contest at Mount Carmel. You know, when we're talking about born to win, there's got to be a winner. I remember when Victor started playing soccer, when there was this, they would go and play soccer, and supposedly there wasn't supposed to be any winner. In fact, at some point, they didn't even have anywhere to shoot. And it made sense because they never used to get to it anyways, right? It was just kicking the ball around. But as they grew older, in the level that he plays today, they are winners. There is a trophy. And there can only be one winner. And if they don't get to it, they get to go to what is called penalty shootouts. Because why? There's going to be one winner. So in this whole thing of winning, there has to be a winner. And we cannot all win. There's only one. And wherever there is a winner, there is an opponent. And the opponent wants to win as well. In fact, the opponent thinks he has what it takes to win. And then sometimes your opponent might be the favorite. That makes you just a contender. Sometimes you're coming into a fight as an underdog. And everything that is faced in front of you realistically is supposed to intimidate you. And not only does it intimidate you, it's realistically maybe earthly superior than what you've got. And in this case, you have to come in and say, I am born to win. Now, here's the thing about somebody who's born to win. The suggestion when you say you are born to win is so different from a person who says, I have prepared to win. Because the one who's born to win has been given this as a privilege. And the attributes that make you win are not what you have done for yourself. It's not out of your preparation. So whoever has placed you to win has an agenda. Whoever has placed you to win has a formula. Whoever has placed you to win has the strategy. So if I am going to shout out and say, I am born to win, I better know whose strategy I'm going with. I gotta be familiar with the attributes that make me superior in this battle. I cannot come in with my own strengths against somebody else who's fighting me, because my own strengths will always fall short in a place where I am placed to win. Because you did not prepare for this battle. The victory is handed to you. And whoever handed to you this victory first knows why, second knows how, and knows when. So when I shout out and say, I am born to win, I am saying that I acknowledge that this was done before I was even there. And when I was born to win, I acknowledge that I have a mission that has been placed before me. And I am going to follow what I have been told to do so that I can win. It's not going to be out of my might. And if there's going to be any kind of intelligence that I have to use, that intelligence has been placed in me for this particular battle. Everything has been given. This is the idea of saying that I am born to win. I have not prepared to win. I have not done anything. In fact, if my preparation to win has to be, it is part of his strategy. And that preparation, he has to lead it. It's not going to be on my terms. Because I am born to win. I am born to win. I am born for this. So a bit of a background story to the contest at Mount Carmel. The king has married Jezebel. Here's the thing about people that are born to win. People that are placed in situations that attain victory. Sometimes they forget who put them there. And sometimes because of the glory that comes with it. Because let's face it, When I finally win, even though I am born to win, there is glory that comes with it. That necessarily is not mine. But when I start basking in it, there's a fair chance that I might forget who gave it to me and why. And this is what's going on with King Ahab at this time. Through generations, he was born to lead because of his lineage, because of his heritage. He was born to win. But when he gets there, he forgets that the crown that he puts on his head does not represent him. The authority upon which he moves is not his. And I think in being challenged to whose authority and strength he's walking upon, he decided to walk away from all that reminded him that he was not the victor. And sometimes that's us. There is something about talking about your victory. I've always said with my friends that, have you ever noticed that when somebody's talking about his accolades, things that he won about, things that he brags about, they always throw in that little part that tells you that you can no longer do it like I did it because I had this. So if somebody's talking about, oh, you see this mansion that I have, you know what? It just so happened that I bought it and 6 months later things changed up and they're now 3 times more. I was just lucky to be in that position. There has to be that part where they have that upper hand that you can no longer put into it. There has to be that, but I was smart enough, I did this. But I was. So in this season, I think Ahab realizes that, you know what? If I stand and speak of who put me here, then I have to run according to the authority that gives me the power. So he decides to walk away. And guess what? He gets Jezebel. Jezebel has an agenda. And part of her agenda is to fortify Baal worship. And coincidentally, when God gives Canaan to his children, the part of it that we all know about was that it was fruitful. They say even the grapes were so big. It was fertile land. But the counterfeit Baal says he is the God of fertility. So Jezebel says, my God is the God of fertility. Why not? When God has granted us peace, why can't we just say, you know what, Canada is the most peaceful place. Why? Because we all get along. We bring everybody in. We accept every kind of worship in Canada. Everything is good. That's why we've got peace. Nobody's going to ever throw any missiles to us because we've got everybody here. They would be bombing themselves too. That's the counterfeit, right? But let me tell you one thing. There can only be one winner. There can only be one winner. When we go to work, you are his apostle in that place, in that marketplace. You are the one that has been sent into that place. And as you walk, as you speak, the Great Commission goes on. The why you're supposed to win. But yeah, Baal will tell you that this place is so good. There's equal opportunity in this place. And everybody can flourish in this place. Why? Because we do not talk about religion in this place. Your religion doesn't matter. Everything else doesn't matter. We only have that cafeteria where we can always have other people worship at 6 whenever they want. And I got to be okay with it because my God doesn't tell me to do certain things at certain times. He's okay with me doing whatever I want. So yes, the Baal of the marketplace tells us that he is the one that prospers companies. He's the one who prospers businesses. He's the one who prospers everything that we walk in. Why? Because he's the God of fertility, right? Meanwhile, there is one who puts you in that place. And sometimes it's easier for us to take the counterfeit. Sometimes it's easier for us to live with the counterfeit. And not because we're so good, and not because we are afraid of what's going on outside, because it releases us from why we are born to win. It releases us from the strategy of the battle. It releases us from what we're supposed to do. So, in this place, I'm looking at Ahab. He is pompous. He has to walk and say he is the winner. He is the king. Now he has to bring in his wife. And for years and decades, the prophets of the true God have run away. Let's go to Deuteronomy 11. Deuteronomy 11, 16 to 17. But the hills and the valleys in the promised land are watered by the rain from heavens, because the Lord your God keeps his eye on his land and takes care of it all year long. The Lord your God commands you to love him and to serve him with all your heart and soul. If you obey him, he will send rain at the right season, so you will have more than enough food, wine, and olive oil, and there will be plenty of grass for the cattle. But watch out. You will be tempted to turn your back on the Lord. And if you worship other gods, the Lord will become angry and keep the rain from falling. Nothing will grow in your fields, and you will die and disappear from the land that the Lord is giving you. Memorize these laws and think about them. This is Moses in Deuteronomy. He has told the Israelites what would happen if they deviated from their God. Ahab has listened to Jezebel. And he chooses, I don't know if it was just a coincidence, but how convenient that he goes to look for somebody with a God that is responsible for fertility, that is responsible for giving the land. I don't know if it's a coincidence. But this is it. A counterfeit has been looked for. something that mimics the truth. And when Elijah, the man we're going to be talking about, comes in 1 Kings chapter 17, verse 1, he says the same thing. Telling them that even though the prophets may have changed, God is still the same. The command is still the same. Whose victory is still the same. So, different era, different prophets, different times, and Israel is still born to win. Different times, different years, and you and me are still born to win. But the why, the how, and the when will not change. Strategies might change. The battles might change. But you and I are still born to win. And because we're born to win, there's a reason why. And when we walk away from the why, then the how will change. In fact, the how is no longer there. And when the how isn't there anymore, the when can be anything. So when we wait upon God's promises, it is important for us to understand why we've been promised that. Because when we understand why we've been promised things by the Lord, we can be docile to understanding how. We can keep ourselves close enough to listen to the how. And the when can be told to us. So Elijah goes in, tells King Ahab what the Lord has told him. That's a prophet that's born to win. But the why is known. That's why he comes in to speak about this. This is the why. He tells him, and he tells him the why. And King Ahab knows the why, because through generations he's been told of what Moses said in Deuteronomy. But the how is not known. So Elijah has to flee in preparation for what's to come. For all those that have read or that have heard about this story, Elijah has to be fed by crows. And when that episode is done, he has to go and eat from a Gentile's house. And not just any Gentile's house, in Jezebel's own backyard. Preparation. Though it might not always be rosy, though sometimes you might have to deviate from what you think you know and what you think it is, what it's supposed to be, because in this time, Jews don't eat from Gentiles' places. In this time, crows are bad for you. They're a bad omen. But if it's the how that God has given to you, that is the how. And how are you going to know that this is how God intends to do it? How are you going to know his strategy? It's by staying with him. Proximity. listening to God. Elijah is described as God's prophet, meaning that he spoke to God. So I don't know about you. If you're going to know God's strategy, you're going to stay within him, and we only stay within him in prayer. We're going to have to talk to him constantly so that we know how, so that we know our strategy, so that our strategy is always crystal clear. Because I don't know about you, but I'm not walking in any political leader's face and speak to him about things that I am thinking God said this. I got to be sure. I mean, how many of us have ever had a word of wisdom to give to somebody right here in church and, I don't know if it's my feelings, but I think God is saying this. You don't do this to political leaders, especially in that time. You got to know. You got to be sure. And some of the battles we're faced with today, you cannot not be sure. You got to know. And what's the strategy towards knowing? Prayer. God speaks. God is not silent. God speaks to you. He hears you. In fact, there's always a conversation if you stay close enough to listen. Now, when we go to verse 8 and verse 22, the contest is set. The win has come. And again, God instructs Elijah. Elijah doesn't wake up one day and thinks, you know what, enough is enough. I just felt something in me saying that enough is enough. I got to do something. No, God tells him. God tells him. And he goes back where he's being looked for, where he's being hunted. Why? Because God told him. And when he gets there, God has instructed him on how it's going to be done, up to the specifics. Even how he's supposed to set up his altar is according to what God has said. That's what it is to be born to win. When you're born to win, you understand that the battle is not yours. The battle has already been won. You understand that you don't have to come up with a strategy. You are sensitive to God's timing. Even sometimes it feels like it's late. But when he says move, that's when you move. Because you have not prepared yourself to win and you feel that it's time. You understand I was born to win. And none of my own attributes are going to make me win this battle. By myself, my enemy is far more superior than myself. But when I stand in God, when I stand in Jesus, I win. Elijah comes back to Ahab and has a proposal. A proposal that will set the only one true God. Something that's going to determine who the real God is. Not who the true prophet is. Not who has the best ears to listen to God, but who the true God is. This is the why. So if you're born to win, and and the battle you're about to get into, the contest you're about to get to, does not glorify God, that is your own battle. I'm sorry to say. If your victory does not glorify God, you're not born for that. You have prepared yourself for that, even though you might win. Because what you are born to do has everything to do with who ordained you to do it. So sometimes we walk around in life feeling that we are losers, trying everything that we can do about our own lives, and we feel that there is no success in it. But sometimes have we ever really checked if whatever we are trying to win in, whatever we're trying to set up, whatever we're trying to be victorious in, who does it glorify? Because quoting the scriptures, every time, in every situation, like I'm born to win. He has made me the leader, not the head and not the tail. And all these things. Yeah, he has made you the head and not the tail. But where are you headed? Who does your victory glorify? You or him? I know, of course, because you speak about being a Christian and you are identified with being a Christian, everything that you're going to do, you're going to say, yes, thank God, I'm blessed, this is my blessing, yes, we're all going to say that because it's a default setting in us Christians, but does it really glorify the Lord? And is that what you're born to do? What are we trying to win at? Because when we follow what we are here for, it's inevitable for us to fail. When we have the right why, and when we have the right how, in the right time, the fullness of his time, it's inevitable for you to fail. You are born a winner. Now Elijah starts with his contest. And he gives his opponents a head start. Tells them to go ahead. Do what they got to do. Speak to their God. And see if you will answer with fire. That's the how. Right? That's the how. I don't know about you, but unless God has sent you to do something like that, you don't take chances with lighting up a whole bull without fire. Especially drenched in water, unless God has told you to do that. Now, how many times, or how many of us are going to take a chance like that? Because remember, there's one thing about people that are successful. They prepare ahead. And Ahab being a king, and Jezebel being an influential person, she had a plan. So while everybody else is looking at the contest, I can guarantee you, Jezebel already knows where Elijah is going to be buried. I can guarantee you that. Your opponent is already preparing for victory. has already pictured your demise. If it is the devil, he already knows that you are a winner. And if he is going to win, he knows what he's taking away from you. And he has pictured it enough times. So when this is going on, Elijah has to follow the how that God has given him. Or else he knows what's going to happen to him. But somebody that knows that he's born to win, they're also a win on their side. Not only is Elijah thinking of how the meat is going to burn, but he's already thinking of the restoration that's going to come on Israel. He's already thinking of the water that's going to come down. Because true victory within the why that God has given has results. So when we go on the why, it's also as important for us to understand the true results of the why. So when we set up this whole big facility, this whole church, and we say our why is to reach out to people and help them find God, there's going to have to be results. And the how God is giving us every day. And the outside world is attracting our people out of here too. It's their strategy. But I got this to tell you guys. We are born to win. And not because of us, but because of who ordained us to win. And the strategy is his. And he gives us a win every day. But do we plug in to the how? Do we fully understand the true value of the why? And are our results calibrated to the one who has sent us? Because only when we understand the true value that he who has sent us has, we can never understand the true victory. And when we do not understand the true victory, it is easy for us to be bruised in the battle. Now, God answers with fire. And it's truly known in this whole land that the God of Elijah is the one true God. But guess what? The water still hasn't come down. Right? The whole reason for this is because God has said there's not going to be any water in the land. Why? Because you have worshipped another God. Now we have proved that only one true God. And now it's time for the proper result. Yeah, maybe you proved. Maybe you had something that you did. For all we know, if it was in these days, would say, really, did anybody really check whatever you poured in there? Wasn't it ethanol? You know? Maybe it was ethanol. Ethanol looks like water, right, Dev? It doesn't smell. It's got no smell whatsoever. The true result will come from the rain coming down. Now, I don't know if it was you being sent out to see if the rain was coming, how many times would you walk a distance only to come back and say, "No, my master, there's nothing"? And remember, Elijah is not described as anybody of greater influence. In fact, he was a bum. So imagine being sent by a bum right here in town to walk all the way to Port Bruce to see if something was coming, and you come back every time and say there's nothing. 3 times you come back. At what point are you going to tell the bum, "Bro, ain't working"? One victory for the day, right? But no. He sent 7 times. 7 times of checking what God has done, even after he has given you the biggest sign of your victory. Like, how many times have God really established that he is the God in our lives? And we undoubtedly know that God is the God of our lives. But still, that doesn't change into money when you're in a money problem. When you're sick and in hospital, yes, sometimes the people will feel the comfort and the Holy Spirit go around them. But when they're still sick and they can't get out of bed, that's not healing. And this is what's going on now. Yeah, you know what? Everything was incinerated, even the stones, everything. It's a beautiful story. When we stand up as the house of the Lord and we stand with our people in need, when we are at work and we're encouraging to those that don't know the Lord. But if the guy is going back home every day and looks at a marriage that's not working, how do we go about that? Do we say, "You know what? I showed you who God is. I've given you every proof that God is there. Now, you know what? This is up to you." Because, if I was Elijah, I'd say, "You know what? You knew where you went wrong. I showed you who God is. Now it's up to you to pray to God and ask for your forgiveness. After all, I'm not the one who was worshiping Baal. It was you." Right? Why doesn't he just walk away? His part is done. But no. It's the why. God has to reestablish himself. He rules the heavens and he rules the earth. And everything. So when you are born to win, you are a heavenly being, a spiritual being that manifests authority on this earth. What you say, what you do, matters in both realms. Believe it or not. Because when you win according to God's purpose, everything you're doing at that time is ordained by him for here. It's not a show. It's a reality. It's not a motivation. It's a God thing. He rules. He is the truth. So you best believe that you are ordained to change things in this earth until he shows up and takes us to heaven. You and me are who are going to change things. We have been left in charge through the Holy Spirit to change things. We have a why that has been ordained of us. We have a how that is always being communicated to us. And there's always a when for people that are willing to. So for those that will shout and say, I am born to be a winner, it's about who created you and why he created you. Only and only then will you find your victory. So yes, Pastor Kevin, the ones that do not win, that will always want to be victims, they will speak about everything else that stops them from getting the victory. And the ones that are afraid of going to win will always speak about the ones that are winning. Even the ones that are trying. But the ones that know that they were born to win, the ones that know that it's not because of them, the ones that know that I don't have to prepare for this because I am prepared for this. Remember, you do not have to prepare for something that you've been prepared for because you do not know the preparation of the one who prepared you. You have no formula. He has the formula for preparation. That's why he sends you, so that the one that knows the why, knows the how, and knows the when. I don't have much more to say today. And I really feel that this is not a motivational speech because it is supported by the truth. You are born to win. You were ordained to win. Jeremiah says, in Jeremiah, he was known while he was still in his mother's womb. Known to win. And by no way has your life been dictated to you. You are born to win within freedom. You are free to win. Isn't that a little bit confusing? Like, you are free to win, but you were born to do this. But yeah, this is how God operates. You're born to win. Not just a speech. Not just the cliche thing we talk about because, sometimes it's very cool to speak about God, Sometimes it's very cool to just be the guy that's calm in the room, that doesn't just react to things. The guy that is always confident. Because, when you got Christ in you, you're always confident. And confidence is attractive. But it's one other thing to actually leave wearing the victor's helmet, knowing that I am a victor. I have been ordained to change things. When I get into the room, the enemy flees. When I speak, I have the final word because my word is backed up by the truth. You know how it is when there wasn't Google and we could always say what we want as long as we said it confident enough it was the truth? Not now, because everybody can Google any BS we can say. So imagine this time you are the guy who has the whole truth. And when they have been talking about everything else, the counterfeit, when they've been talking about everything else that they think it is, you're telling them what it is because you are the one that knows. That is you. That is you. Not anybody else. And God is no respecter of persons. That is you. Where you walk. That is you. In the grocery store. That is you. Our pastor was away for 2 weeks. I bet you when he left, he never said, healing stops because I'm going to be away for 2 weeks and Kevin is going to be very busy with the whole church. No, because there is you. If there was any sickness here, he has known that you are ordained to change things. Unless it's something peculiar, Pastor Kevin will never say, you know what? I'm a little bit flexible. I can come with you to work, if you've got a situation that has been spoken to about. If anything, he's probably going to give you a few verses and say, you got it, buddy. Because you're a winner. You're born to win. So when you do not understand that you're born to win, you're doing the world a disfavor. When you do not understand your position in the world, you might actually be responsible for a death that you don't know that you were responsible for because you did not do the healing that was supposed to happen. Because you're born to win. You are responsible for that marriage that is on the rocks right now because when you knew about it, when you were told about it, you are born to win. You are supposed to step in and say, and let God save the day. Because you have what it takes. My encouragement to everybody today, let's live in victory. We've been given the victory. Let's live in it. Let's practice it. Let's be proud of it. Above everything else, let's know it's not about us. So we don't have to do anything out of the ordinary, but just live in His presence. Let's just live in His presence. Because you are all born to win. Amen.